If you want to get down to 10% body fat, elite shape, and you can't, it's not because of your genetics, it's not because of your metabolism, it's definitely not because you need some sort of special plan, it's because you're missing structure. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to break down exactly what 10% body fat looks like. I'm going to break down the targets that you need to work towards every single week to get down to 10% body fat, and we're going to look at the 5 variables that actually decide whether you get there or not. And if you stay until the end of the video, I'm going to tell you the exact reason why most men get stuck at 15% body fat and how to break past it. So what does 10% actually look like? Now, so many men say that they want to get down to 10% body fat, but they don't actually know what 10% body fat looks like. Now, that is incredibly lean. So we're talking visible abs without flexing, clear separation in your delts and arms, clothes fit much tighter, you've got a chiseled face, you're vascular, you've got veins popping, it's lean, it's not stage shredded, it's not absolutely peeled out of your mind, it's simply just lean. And here's the uncomfortable truth, most men stop at 15% because that's when it starts to get uncomfortable. And that is exactly why you need a number. You need targets to work towards every week, and you need to know what your end target is, and you need an end date for that urgency. You can't just be acting off of motivation. So let's calculate your numbers. Let's figure out what weight you need to get down to 10% body fat. Now, first of all, you should never be dieting blindly off of motivation or off of how you feel or off of how you look. You should be working towards targets, weekly targets. You should know what your end point is. Here's how you calculate the exact weight that you need to hit to get down to 10% body fat. So step number 1, we need to calculate your lean body mass, your fat-free mass. I'm going to pop up a diagram on the screen. This, in my eyes, is a very accurate representation of what different body fat percentages look like. Now, most men, they underestimate the body fat levels that they actually carry. So with the number that you pick, looking at this diagram, I would even add another 1, 2, or 3% to that number, just to make sure that this end figure, the 10% body fat number, is as accurate as it can be. To calculate your lean body mass, get your current body weight fasted in the morning, and you want to multiply it by 1 minus your current body fat percentage as a decimal. So I'm going to use me as an example. In this photo, I was 101 kilos. I'm going to estimate around 22% body fat. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do 1 minus 0.22, which is 0.78. I'm going to times that 0.78 by 101. And that's going to give me my fat-free mass, which is 78.8 kilograms. Now for 10% body fat, so you want to do 1 minus your desired body fat percentage as a decimal, which for me would be 1 minus 0.1, that's 10% body fat, so 0.9, and you do 78.8, so you do your fat-free mass divided by that number, and that is going to give you your target weight for you to get down to 10% body fat. So for me, 78.8 kilos divided by 0.9, it's giving me 87.6 kilos, so that's the weight that I need to aim for to get down to 10% body fat. Now, you're not dieting randomly. You've got your target, so that's what you're working towards. I dieted down until 87 kilos. So in this check-in picture, which was my lowest, I was 86.5 kilos, and I would say that I'm sitting at around 10% body fat. So that is total clarity. Now pause the video and calculate your target, because once you've got that number, you essentially remove all of the emotion from the process. You know exactly what you need to focus on achieving and what weight you need to focus on reaching. Now that you know your number, here's how to actually get there. So the 5 variables that determine everything. So the first one is your timeline and your rate of fat loss. So if you're sitting at anywhere above 18% body fat, getting down to 10, getting into elite shape, it's not going to be a quick journey. It's not going to be 8, 10, 12 weeks in a deficit. We're going to be looking at 16 to 20 minimum. Now, in terms of targets, any target for fat loss, especially for me and the team, I always say that we should be aiming for around 1% of our body weight per week. You can do 0.5, obviously that's going to prolong the process. So a target that's manageable, that's sustainable, and that shouldn't be too hard for you is 1% of your body weight per week. Any faster than that and you're bound to lack energy. So training performance will suffer, your strength will start to drop, and then you may be losing 1% of your body weight per week or more, but some of that is going to be muscle, which is not what we want. Not only will training performance drop, but recovery will too. You'll be more fatigued, hunger hormones will be out of whack, so ghrelin and leptin will be out of whack, which means that you're going to have more cravings, you're going to be hungrier throughout the day, you're going to make the process much harder for yourself. In short, any more than 1% and you've got a one-way ticket to running running yourself into the ground to get there, or you're going to end up rebounding and reverting straight back to how you were at the start. The goal with this isn't simply just to get lighter and to get to 10% body fat. It's to get to 10% body fat in elite shape, but retain all of the tissue you've got so that when you do get there, you look sick. And that brings us to mistake number 2 that ruins most cuts. And that brings us to the second mistake that ruins most cuts. It's calories. It's being precise with your calories. Being in a deficit, getting really lean, is a game of calories in versus calories out. And a deficit works for everyone. So if you've been in a deficit before but you've not been losing weight, this is probably why. You're not tracking oils, you're not tracking any spreads such as butter or jam, you're not tracking sauces, eyeballing your portions, and you're not weighing your food. You need to remember, if it's not tracked, it's not measured. And if it's not measured, you're guessing, and guessing will not get you down to 10% body fat. Guessing does not get you into elite shape. So to start with your calories, if you've got no idea, get your body weight in pounds, multiply that by 15, and that will be your starting number in terms of the calories that you need to consume on a daily basis to help you to start losing weight. This is a good amount of fuel and will help you to fuel your training so that you can lose body fat but still train hard inside the gym. So to delve into the macros, protein, going to be looking at 1 to 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. I typically program this a little bit higher, so 1.2 grams per pound of body weight. This is to optimize recovery, so to keep your body recovered from the sessions, and also as protein is the most satiating macronutrient, it's going to help you to stay full during the day. For fats, we're going to be looking at 40 to 60 grams of healthy fats per day. That's to regulate hormone function and also just to regulate normal bodily functions. And then for carbs, you essentially want to fill the rest of your calories with carbs, but you want to prioritize placing carbs around your training window. So carbs before to help fuel training and carbs post-workout to help replenish lost glycogen stores and to kickstart your recovery. Make sure to track your food daily, every single meal, weigh out every single meal, adjust your food weekly or bi-weekly, and make sure that you're sticking to your targets. But the thing is that most people miss, calories alone will not protect your physique. And this is where training comes in. So variable 3 is training intensity. Now, when calories drop, typically energy drops. But if you want to look muscular and you want to look great at 10% body fat, you need to be training hard. So that means 0 to 2 reps in reserve, doing the same lifts on the same machines, tracking your numbers, aiming to apply progressive overload every single session for every single exercise. You need to fight to maintain your strength and you need to fight to progress. You can't progress your lifts in a deficit, especially near the start of a deficit. But it all comes down to your mindset. You need to head into every session really fighting and grinding for those lifts and for those extra reps. Your body will retain muscle when it's forced to. So you need to take the muscle there to a point where it needs to hold on to that tissue so that it can lift that same weight in the following session. If at any point during a deficit your strength just jumps off of a cliff, you're either dieting too hard or you're not training hard enough. Muscle is incredibly tough to build, so when you're in a deficit and when you're trying to get lean, you need to do everything you can in your power to hold on to that tissue that you've got. But there is a roadblock that hides in the shadows and stops men from losing fat. So variable number 4 is your activity, so daily activity, and your NEAT, so non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Now NEAT in essence is movement that you do or calories that you burn from movements that aren't purposeful in terms of fitness. So for example, it's not about playing sports. NEAT could be me tapping my leg, the calories burned from me tapping my leg, or tapping a pen, or walking from my car to my place of work. Your daily movement is so important. The key to consistent progression when dieting is to move daily without fail. So make that a non-negotiable. Set a step goal that's non-negotiable. Typically, I start with 8K steps, and then as expenditure needs to be bumped up to help maintain that deficit, I will up it by 2,000 and then 2,000 again, and if needed, 2,000 again. And then add in some cardio sessions. So cardio will be done in zone 2. Zone 2 is the most effective form of cardio for burning fat as it targets fat stores directly as opposed to carbs in any higher zones of cardio. So zone 2 is cardio done at 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. Your maximum heart rate is calculated by doing 220 minus your age. So do 220 minus your age, multiply that by 0.7. Typically, I like to opt for the higher end of zone 2 just to burn a few more calories. Now, what usually happens to fellas is calories drop, energy drops, and then movement slowly starts to drop. So you think that the deficit just isn't working, but in reality, you just started moving less, which means that you're no longer in that deficit. When getting lean and into elite shape, you need to play the long game. So you need to focus on being consistent rather than doing short, intense bursts and then letting up after that. Now here's the final variable, and this is the one that separates the disciplined man who gets 10% body fat from the emotional dieters that end up yo-yoing and going around in the same circle for years and years on end. Variable 5 is recovery and discipline. So sleep. Sleep is a cheat code for physique development. You need to be focusing on getting 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep per night. That's to optimize your recovery, regulate your mood, keep energy in a good spot. For hydration, you want to be getting 3 to 4 liters of water per day. You also need to be consuming electrolytes. So some electrolyte powders that I recommend, this is not sponsored, are Pure Sport and Element. And hydration is key to help shuttle nutrients around the body effectively. So fundamentally, the food that you take on board is being utilized more effectively. Now, getting lean is quite stressful and definitely has an impact on body and mind. Now, if sleep reduces or sleep quality is poor, hunger increases, energy decreases, your mood is going to decrease, your training performance is going to decrease, decision making gets a lot worse. Now, most men don't fail physically, they fail because it gets boring. Getting down to 10% is monotonous. You eat the same meals, you do the same lifts, you go to bed at the same time, you wake up at the same time, you eat at the same time. There's no novelty. There's nothing new that comes into play week by week. It's just a case of living the same week on repeat, but with more cardio and more steps and a little bit less food. Being brutally honest with you, 10% requires that monotony, living the same day on repeat. Last but far from least is the biggest reason that men get stuck at that 15% barrier, because they start compromising. Those extra few bites, the missed steps, the missed cardio, those lazy sessions, those untracked weekends, individually, they're all small and they're not going to have a major impact, but when compounded and when placed together, they're going to stop you from pushing past that 15% mark. It's simply just a case of caving into your emotions and not sticking to the plan. It's when your discipline starts to crumble. And if you do something once, you open up the opportunity to do it over and over and over again. But if you don't do it once, you're all good. You're going to be consistently moving forward. Getting to 10% genuinely isn't complicated, but it does require high standards and it requires a really high level of discipline. So now you've got the exact formula to calculate your target weight, you've got the timeline required, you've got the activity baseline, you've got the training requirements, you've got the recovery system. There's nothing missing. If you execute this properly, you will get down to 10% body fat. If you don't follow this, you won't. It's that simple. If you found this useful, drop me a sub. If you've got any questions at all, please drop them in the comment box and I will get them answered. And if you want help from me getting down to 10% body fat and in elite shape, apply using the link in my bio. That's it for this video, peeps. So I'll catch you in the next one.